Good morning. I know some of you guys thought I was just doing the welcome. Craig put me in charge this morning. We'll see how this goes. Welcome back. I know some of you guys are sleepy. Someone this morning asked me if I could be just a little more perky up here. You see, I don't eat meat, so I don't have the tryptophan in my body right now that the rest of you guys do. So while you're all struggling to stay awake, I am wide awake. Caffeine doesn't hurt much either. But today we're starting our new Advent series, Socks and Underwear. And I have to be honest, when Craig texted me and told me what the theme of our series was, I really thought he was joking. Because talking about underwear in church, it's okay when I'm back there with the kids, because that's what we do back there, but it makes me giggle when I think about it up here. I mean, just say it in your mind, underwear, and you're in church. Anyway, it's just me, sorry. But you know what? Socks and underwear is a great analogy for this season of Advent, this season of expectation and waiting. You see, we all have things that we really, really want. The kids in the room, you guys have your Christmas list already, don't you? Thumbs up. Do you guys have them ready? I know on my kids' Christmas lists, they're getting longer and longer and longer by the day. What they don't know, and they were here early service, so I can tell you this, is I'm done shopping, so they can add stuff all they want. But my 4-year-old, it's my little Spitfire. He has something on his list, and he's had it on his list since he was 2 years old. So this will be the third Christmas. A flamethrower. And according to him, you can purchase these at Target. Okay, if you know me, you know I spend a lot of time at Target. There are no flamethrowers there. But Felix really, really, really wants a flamethrower. So much so, he told Santa yesterday at the Durham Museum. Yeah, we got some strange looks from them. But you know what? As much as Felix wants a flamethrower, his dad and I know that's not what he needs. As much as his brother wants a hoverboard, we know he definitely doesn't need that, since we have the orthopedist on speed dial in our house. And just like we'll make decisions on what our kids really need this Christmas season, God does the same thing with us, with all of his children. You see, way back when, in Bethlehem, on that night in that manger, there were people all around, and they wanted something. They wanted a king. They wanted someone to lead them. But that's not really what they needed. What they needed was a Savior. And that's what God gave them. A Savior all wrapped up in that tiny bundle. As we enter this season of Advent, what would it look like if all of us put away those things we want and think about what we really need? What if we put away the things we want and think about what those we love need? Now, our Christmas chaos guy, that looks a lot like my house. He talked about those crazy schedules. You know, you need to show up or everyone will hate you. How many of you guys feel that way? I do. Your calendars may look a little like this. We have that slide. Maybe not. My calendar that sits on my desk right now is filled. If you notice, I have a little break until about the 10th of December, but then it's on. There are concerts to go to, preschool programs, Christmas parties, for work, and that's just my husband's job. Small groups, neighborhood, you name it, we've got an invitation for it. In fact, we got an invitation for a wedding over Christmas. And then there's trips. If you guys want to mark December 28th, that's my birthday. All these things, next Sunday or next Saturday, it's my wedding anniversary. Don't tell my husband I got the date wrong. But all these things on this calendar. And the thing is, that's not even all of it. I still have to show up for work. I still have meetings to attend. There's still doctor's appointments to go to. My kids still have sports practices. all of these things that are on this calendar that I feel like I need to show up or someone's going to hate me. But is that really what the people in my life need? Do they need me showing up distracted? Does my son really need me sitting in the front row of his band concert, pulling out my phone, wondering where I have to be next? Or did they need me fully, wholly, completely, focused? You see, this season is a busy one. But we have to prioritize our time, because it's our time that shows our love. It's how we use our time that we show one another. You can tell me I love you all day long, every single day. But if you're not willing to spend your time with me, it's just lip service. You see, it takes time to prove that love is real. It takes time to prove that love is real. When we look at Mary and Martha, some of us can see ourselves in this story. There's Martha being the good hostess, getting everything ready. There's a house to be cleaned, dishes to be done, spots to be wiped up, food to be served, and she's getting after it. She's doing what needs to be done. And then there's her sister Mary, sitting at the feet of Jesus, sitting with her friend, talking, laughing, listening. Now, in all reality, neither one of them's doing anything wrong. They're both serving the way they feel fit, the way they feel is needed. But one of them's distracted. Martha, and I can just see her in my head, she's doing her cleaning. She's waiting on everybody, and she's looking over at her sister, and she is just getting mad. And you guys have been there. Some of you are probably there on Thursday. Why is she just sitting there? What, does she not realize there's a million things to do? We have a house full of people, and there she is, just sitting with Jesus. I wish I had time to do that. I wish I had time to, la-di-da-di-da. Martha is serving, but she's distracted. She's not focusing on what's truly needed. The Greek word for serve is diakonos. And if you translate that literally, it translates to minister. When we serve one another, aren't we ministering to one another? Aren't we doing what God called us to do? Love one another? Martha misses the point. It's where her priorities fall. She's so busy tending to her chores that she forgets to spend time with the people she loves. And in this instance, that's how she could have truly ministered or served those closest to her. If you're familiar with the book, The 5 Love Languages, you know that one of the love languages is quality time. Focused quality time. Focused attention on that person you love. You know what that means? This thing should not be out. This should not be happening. That iPad can be put away. Gilmore Girls will still be on Netflix tomorrow. I bring these up because I'm the world's worst at these things. We finish dinner at night, and I retreat into myself. I get my phone out, I get my iPad out. When what my boys need is mom. Sometimes they just need me to be there next to them as they play video games before bed. And sometimes my 13-year-old needs mom to be there to talk about whatever's going on. to give him advice on girls that he's never going to take, to listen to how his day went, to listen to his struggles. But I'm distracted. There's emails to be read. There's things to be planned. There's schedules to keep. When I was younger, my daddy never said, "I love you." Just wasn't the way he was wired. He was a military guy. In fact, when he graduated high school, he got his draft notice in one hand and his diploma in the other. And most of you are looking at me and wondering how that's possible. My daddy's 93 years old. I'm not telling you he never said, "I love you," to make you feel bad for me. Because without a doubt, I know that my Father loves me fully, wholly, and completely, without the words. I know this because he took time to spend with me. When you have 6 kids, that's not easy to do. My father had 2 kids from a previous marriage that lived in Texas, and then 4 of us in our household. He also worked full-time. My mother was often ill, so he took care of her. Time was not a commodity he had a lot of. But when I was in high school, I knew that every Saturday morning, I would awake to bacon and eggs and coffee, lots of coffee. And I would walk into our dining room, and spread out on the table would be the sports page. And what made that so important is because it would be spread out to where my byline was, where those stories I wrote from the night before were. And every Saturday morning, while the rest of the family slept, we would talk about how I spent my Friday night, under the Friday night lights usually. We would talk about the games. We would talk about what I thought about them. We would talk about things like, "Hey, you're a girl writing sports. How's this going to work out for you?" We'd talk about my hopes and dreams. Every Saturday morning. There were 3 other kids in that household. But he took time for me. And as I got older, I can remember coming home from college, 19 years old, knowing everything in the world, showing up unannounced one Friday night, a blubbering mess. Those of you who have teenage daughters have been there. The tears, the high-pitched Swedish voice that you can't understand, the drama. That was me, all rolled up into this wonderful package as my dad opens the door. And he was home alone. My mom had gone on a trip. And here I stood, miserable. And when my dad finally, was able to figure out what I was saying, he realized I was brokenhearted. My boyfriend had chosen to break up with me. And instead of staying in Stillwater, Oklahoma, I headed home. My dad could have done many things. He could have speed dialed my mom and said, "Get home now." He could have given me a hug, showed me into my room, shut the door, and walked away and said, "Okay, glad I dodged that." But instead, he loaded me up in the car. We headed to Walmart, loaded up on Ben & Jerry's ice cream, picked up some chick flicks, and spent that weekend on the couch, talking, laughing. When my emotions took the best of me, he would tell me about how that boy was just dumb. And one day, he would come to his senses, or he would just stay a dumb boy, but that's okay, because I didn't need it. I was loved. And when it came time for me to go back to Stillwater on Sunday, my dad was there, keys in hand, ready to drive me back. 3 hours there, 3 hours back home. Not because he had to, I had a car because he knew I needed his time. And even now, at 93 years old, I know whenever I need it, I have my daddy's time. And so do my boys, including that dumb boy that my dad told me about because I married him. Jesus' reaction to Martha complaining about Mary is one that should resonate to all of us. My dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. When it comes down to it, time matters more than anything. Anything. The moments we share with one another, those moments become memories. Mary will forever have that memory of sitting at Jesus' feet, that memory of the conversation they had. Martha, her memory will be of cleaning. Not a very pleasant memory, if you ask me. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you made it to every party. It doesn't matter if you hit all the right sales. It doesn't matter if everyone showed up on time and did what you expected them to. What matters most is the way you love one another, the time you give one another. Jesus teaches us to prioritize quality time with loved ones and not be distracted over all the details. Think about it. What was the one thing that Jesus gave over and over and over again from the time he was born? The one thing that you and I hold on to, and we're so just not willing to give it up. Time. When Jesus had spoke after a long, long day, and the children flocked to him, he didn't say, I'm tired, I don't have time for you right now. He said, let the children come to me. When he fed the 5,000, he didn't have to do that. It'd been another long day. He could have easily said, hey, these people need to go home. I'm tired, I have things to do. And he didn't. He told his disciples, you feed them. And that's what he tells us. You feed them. We need to feed one another. Show each other that love is real. A few years ago, we spent our final Christmas in Texas. We had known for months that this impending move was going to happen, and I knew that this would be it. My last Christmas in Texas. We were being sent to this frozen tundra called Omaha, Nebraska. And if you don't believe me, just go outside. So I did what every good mom does. I got on Pinterest. You guys are on Pinterest, I know you are. And I started planning the perfect final Texas Christmas. Christmas Eve was planned. We would drive an hour to Houston to where our home church was, attend the Christmas Eve festivities there, spend time with friends, go ice skating. Christmas morning, the kids would open their gifts. We'd read the Bible story. We'd have our big breakfast. We'd bake cookies. And then we'd load up in the car, get on the ferry, and head over to Galveston Island for the rest of the day. It was going to be perfect. I mean, Christmas with my toes in the sand. There's nothing better. Those of you who want a white Christmas, I'm sorry. Sand is better than snow, always. Well, a couple days before Christmas, my older sister Diana calls, and she lived in Austin, which wasn't too far. And she let me know that Mom and Daddy were heading down to spend Christmas with them, and she wanted me and my family to come join them. This did not fit in the plan. It was not in the schedule. We had to stick to the schedule. We were going to have the perfect Texas Christmas, and that wasn't in the plan. I told her, just let me think about it. I'll get back to you. And that night I wrestled with it all night long. asked my husband his advice, and he did what every good husband does. Whatever you want, dear. That is not helpful, guys. And I finally just felt, you know what? We need to go. I sucked it up. During that car ride, I grumbled and moaned and pouted, like all grown-ups do, because this was not what I planned. But we got to Austin, and it turned out to be a wonderful Christmas. We ended up spending a week. My boys were spoiled by their grandparents and aunts and uncle. My husband and I got a date night. My mom made sure that we had a big birthday celebration for me, filled with cupcakes and Vietnamese food and just all the things I love. It was great. And going home at the end of the week, my heart was full because I know that was better than any Pinterest Christmas. But looking back on it, now I know it was much more important. You see, that would be the last Christmas we would spend with my brother-in-law. That would be the last time we would spend with him outside of a hospital bed. A month later, he'd be diagnosed with a rare form of kidney cancer. The next time I spent with him would be with him lying in a hospital bed at MD Anderson in Houston. A couple of months later, Mark would go home. Had I not given up my time, I wouldn't have the memory of Wolf sitting on the couch with Uncle Mark binge watching football. I wouldn't have the memories of sitting around the kitchen counter after everyone else had gone to bed, telling stories, hearing him talk about his athletes, hearing him tell me funny stories about my sister. Those memories wouldn't be there. Had I kept my distractions and what I thought needed to be done, I wouldn't have this perfect memory of this man who was so important to my family. Wednesday, as I was coming, after I'd written my sermon, I came across this quote. And I wanted to share it with you guys because it sums up what I'm trying to tell you so perfectly. It's from Jamie Twarkowski, and he founded this organization called To Write Love on Your Arms. And the organization is for suicide prevention and awareness. An organization that knows time is really important. You'll need coffee and sunsets and road trips, airplanes and passports and new songs and old songs, but people more than anything else. You will need other people, and you will need to be that other person to someone else. A living, breathing, screaming invitation to believe better things. Friends, as we enter this season of Advent, this season of busyness, this season of to-do lists and scheduling nightmares, let's not forget that when it's all said and done, what we need is time with one another. Time laughing, telling stories, holding hands. Time just loving one another. Time reminding one another that this season is about better things. In fact, it's about the best thing. Something that no one realized they wanted, but each and every one of us needs: a Savior. Will you pray with me?